Would you care to introduce yourself, please, Russell?
Okay, Russell McConnochie. I'm the General Manager of New Zealand American football. I've been in the role now for over 4 years. I'm more of an administrator rather than a American football person. I came into the role as the first employee of NZAFF, more to get the structures and the processes and those kind of things done, but I also have a history in delivering community sport in other sports, so that was attractive to the board that hired me at that time. So since taking on the role, one thing that was obvious in the environment here was that the playing membership of American football was not growing. In fact, it was eroding slightly every year. And there's obviously a lot of competition for American football with other oval ball sports and other sports, full stop. When I came in, I found that not a lot was being done with flag football, and flag football has none of the barriers to entry that American football, full contact American football has. So we started down the road of we need to get this going in order to get a funnel of membership starting with the younger age groups. We also perceived that there was a market there for it, both with touch football players, a lot of feedback getting that they were tired of touch football, and also from out of the netball environment where women play netball, and it's a similar skill set to flag football. So we think there's a ready market.
How do you feel flag football's going in New Zealand?
Well, in terms of the clubs embracing it, because that's where we started 4 years ago in Wellington with a national tournament, and we had 6 teams, I think. And it grew slightly over the next couple of years, but then we decided to hold it in Auckland, and we had 10 teams just after lockdown last year. In October last year, we played a tournament, and then we played the national tournaments again in March. The following year, we had 25 teams turning up, men, women, and juniors. So you'd have to say that that's growing. In terms of the club commitment to it, which has been great, and we've had a different winner every year, which is great as well. A lot of competition for the finals, get into the finals and the quarters. Where the growth will come from, though, is not through the clubs. I believe the growth will come out of the communities, and we've got to enable communities to have. And where are we going? I think we're going to have well over 30. We'll have more youth teams. We'll have more women's teams. We might struggle for more men's teams, but I'm not worried about that. Ideally, I'd like to break up the age groups down to under 18 and under 16, and have 2 age groups there. And how are we going? Behind my expectation, but better than last year.
How do your weekend competitions work?
2 forms of weekend competition. One was the Nationals. We played the Nationals with 25 teams over 2 days. 5 fields of play. We had 8 full-time referees. We also have a concept of duty teams. So most of those games would have had 1 independent referee on the field, and the side judges, 2 of them would have been from the duty team, rostered on at the beginning of the tournament. We also have, as part of the duty team, somebody doing the timekeeping and somebody doing the recording of the score. These games, apart from the finals, are 20-minute halves. So it's a short time, and there's not a lot of time for officials' conferences. So very much it's a quick look, make a decision, move on. COVID's put the spoke in this, but we were having a thing called a quad series where we had 4 tournaments and a finals tournament. Started in Nelson, in the South Island. The next one, 2 weeks later, in Wellington. 2 weeks later, it would have been in Turangi in the middle of the North Island. And then 2 weeks later in Hawke's Bay. And we had 5 to 6 teams in each of those tournaments. 5 games a day, 2 days of games. There were a few walking wounded after that.
Yes, there would be.
Off to the physio, and the more competitions you went to, the more points you got, especially if you won. And the top 6 would compete finals in Wellington on a March Madness format.
How do you see the region developing? I mean, Australia, New Zealand, we see New Guinea making a lot of noise at the moment. How do you see the region developing?
We need to work together. We need to lever off each other to grow. I'd like to see interchange of not just national teams, but almost club teams going across, because it's a lot easier for a flag team to travel to play, and it's a lot easier to find the players to go and play. So, and of course, with only 15. Oh, the other thing is we limit the size of the roster in order to encourage more teams. So that's another aspect of having tournaments. It's a lot easier to shift people around. You don't have to shift the gear. You can get a tournament done in a weekend. All right, and that's a big draw card. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to move that down the age groups and do that with the age groups as well. So you're getting a little bit of competition coming through. You send a youth team, a youth women's team, backwards and forwards, to give them something to aim at those age groups. Again, the reason is we're in competition with other sports. Other sports are doing these kind of things. When people start in sport, they like to know, is there a tournament we can go to? People love going to tournaments. Some of them just love getting out of town and having a reason. Go to Australia as part of a regional or representative team. Great. Aspirational. Moving on, and also we can bring in the islands. It's a lot easier to move, as I say, 12 to 15 players or people than it is to move 30 or 40 without the gear. Come in for a weekend and go.
What are other countries doing that you think is worth copying?
Yeah. I guess the thing that we have to be careful of is the situational thing in whichever country. If you take Canada, because I've just been talking with them, American football there is a lot larger than it is in Australia and New Zealand. It's a lot more visible. They have a National Football League, and so the exposure starts at a different age. They have a whole lot of material that they're willing to share, which is good for bringing people into the sport. So what they recognize is that if you want teams, you need coaches, and maybe the coach is a parent and the parent doesn't know what to do. Well, what they're trying to do is enable those parent coaches, those new coaches, with a whole range of strategies, not just play the game, but play other games that are associated with the skill set required for the game. Another interesting one, which I found quite intriguing, was talking with the region, was Thailand evidently is very keen to run tournaments, and they will run tournaments out of their country. And I believe they ran a tournament in Singapore. So flag football is alive and well in Thailand. So there is opportunities for the wider region as well. And in a way, It could be club, or it could be representative, or it could be semi-representative, if you know what I mean.
What do you want from the officiating community for flag?
Well, in New Zealand, just more. Just more of them. We're lucky in that our officials.
Hang on. We'll get the photocopier out here.
Yeah. I think we're lucky in that the group of officials we've got have embraced flag. They'll put their hands up. I got people in Christchurch coming to Auckland. I've got Aucklanders going to Wellington. After the last Nationals, the quality of the club officials that were duty teams was good, not great, but better than it had been, because people are getting used to, the clubs are getting used to the fact that they come along, and this is the concept that I keep telling them about. It's a privilege that you get to play the sport in this competition. In return for that privilege, you will do a duty. And the better you do your duty, the better other clubs will do their duty. And that's worked okay. It's worked pretty well. Everybody accepts it. They just get on with it. There's no hassle. But this Nationals, I'm going to try a slightly different tack. I'm going to try and incent the clubs to bring 2 officials, non-playing, non-coaching, non-refereeing officials, to the Nationals to be rostered onto games.
So that leads me to a good question, actually, if I may. Do you see the need for a proper training package or program for officials in flag?
Yes. What we did last year is we produced a manual for the Nationals. And in that manual, we specified the jobs of the 2 guys, the 2 referees who will go on the lines, down the lines. And that helped immensely, because we were able to, with Lee and Gav and the guys here, we were able to simplify that down to do these jobs. Don't get tied up with too much else. This is what we expect of you. And I think that's one of the reasons why it got a little better. The white hat, we're using, obviously we're using the contact referees for that, so they pretty much know their job. And we've got a lot of people who know the game. It's a matter of pulling them out and having them available. It would help to have training.
Keep it simple.
Yep.
Keep it simple.
It has to be.
Keep it nice and
simple. One other thing with regard to tournaments, and officiating, because I'm not from the football community, I look at football, I look at flag, and I go, I understand why you want 3 or 4 officials, but if this is to grow in communities, it's got to be able to be officiated by 1. Because in a local community, you may not have the advantage of being able to pull multiple people who know what they're doing.
Well, you look at Touch, or OzTag or whatever. They all manage to do it with 1 official. We've got to be in the same. I think we've got to be in the same boat. We've got to have a game that's so simple. 1 person, moderately fit, can keep up with the game.
Got a piece of dirt, got somebody who will be the referee, got 10 people, go. Have fun. So no passing. You can do a handoff, no passing. No running with the ball. No, the quarterback can't run. You can't go over the line of scrimmage, because we find with the kids, as soon as they can do that, they try it. One lot tried it and they said, nah, turned into rugby. Have mixed teams. And if a girl is a quarterback, they get extra points for a touchdown. If the girl is a receiver, extra points. If the receiver and the quarterback are both girls, great, you're on a winner. But just trying to make it fun, because the rules to me are whatever rules work to get the thing going.